Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's been a hot minute and it is my fault, but we're here and we're ready to go. Today I just want to talk about my experience studying abroad in South Korea. This is long overdue because I got back in January and tomorrow's April. But late is better than never, right? I kind of have a list of questions that people asked me frequently, as well as just experiences that I had that I wanted to share with you guys. So I'm gonna kind of compile all of that together and just talk about like what it took to get into the study abroad program, how it felt preparing for it, how it felt when I was there, and how I felt when I got back. So there's a lot to cover, and honestly, this might be done in like multiple parts, just so we're not sitting here for hours talking. I'm just gonna start like with the very beginning of the process, if I can even remember all of that, and then go from there. I am currently a student who is studying business marketing education and journalism, and it is my last year of university. So one of the biggest things is to either get applied experience, which means like an internship or something hands-on, or to study abroad. And your girl was not finding work. Not in time, she wasn't. So I decided to start looking into study abroad options. And funny enough, by the time I started looking, it was like less than a month before like the study abroad program had started, because there was an option to do it over winter break, which was very ideal for me because I'm graduating a year early. And with that being done, it just takes a lot to like get all my credits, make sure everything's in order, and study abroad in my last semester. So I decided to do the winter break study, even though it meant still being in school. But honestly, since I was gonna be abroad, it still kind of felt like a good trade-off, and it was also cheaper and took less time. And every program's very different, but for me, I was able to do it through the College of Education because that's the college that I am in. So they offered a couple locations. I think there was like France, Spain, Chile, and just stuff like that for study abroad. But the one that caught my eye was South Korea. And that's just because it's been one of my dream destinations. Like y'all don't get it. Like I want to go so bad. So I kind of had my eye on that one, and I got into talks with my advisor about like how I can do it and if there's even time to do it. And I literally had a week and a half to do my application, to talk to my parents about it, to book my plane ticket, to get into the university in Korea. Like it was very, very short notice because I didn't start looking till very late. So my biggest suggestion would be to look into these things early, please. But I was lucky enough where one of the deadlines had passed for applications, but I emailed the like study abroad director and kind of explained to her my situation and just how I absolutely need like these applied experience or study abroad credits to graduate, and like it just fits in my timeline very well. So she gave me like an extra day or two to submit my like essay application to study abroad, and I got in, and like I literally could not have done it without them. Like they helped me so much. So thank you to the UMN Study Abroad Center. It was like super seamless. There was lots of communication and it was super great. So I do have the price breakdowns on my phone, just because these are numbers that I would never remember off the top of my head. So this is just for the University of Minnesota. A lot of people have asked me about this, so I'm here to break it down for you. So first, there is an application fee. So to apply to the program to possibly get in, I did pay $50, which is how much that costs. There's also a non-refundable deposit. Don't ask me what it was for. I think it's for the program, but that was $400, which was a little crazy, but it's okay. As well as tuition and educational costs. But this cost, did I pay for this? $2,000, $396 is for the tuition and educational costs, and that can vary based on if you're taking one or two classes. Since it's over like 3 weeks of winter break, you can only take one or two, and I chose to take one just because I didn't want it to be like super rigorous, because I was going to get the credits regardless of how many classes I took. The total program fee came out to $2,835 is what it came out to. It also had a section for estimated additional expenses, which I'll kind of add somewhere here. And this is stuff that are like costs that you might need before departure or costs that you might have while you're there. So first they had transportation to and from the program site, so $3,000, which pretty much is your plane ticket. My plane ticket was about 2,100 something in there was about my plane ticket round trip. I flew with United and I just tried to pick the cheapest option. So we did have a layover, and I say we because a friend of mine who was also in the program was flying with me. So that was about the cost for that, and that's going to be the highest cost you might have. Passport photos. Make sure you have your passport. I already had one, so I did not have to do this, but it is listed for $150. They also have visa or required documents. Since my program was less than 90 days, a visa was not required for me to go. But if you're staying for like a full semester or a couple months or something like that, then you will probably have to pay for a visa, which for us was listed for $50. There was travel immunizations, that's $0, that didn't matter, as well as a housing deposit of $580, and that is for your dorms. I stayed in a dorm on campus. It was really cool. I had a roommate, and it is a little bit cheaper if you do have a roommate, and honestly I suggest that if you're going to be studying abroad, like you want to meet people. So a roommate for 3 weeks was not bad at all. Now they had costs that incur after arrival in the host country, so they have housing and or meals not included in the program fee. So it's pretty much just talking about like how much you might spend like in food at the dining halls there or something like that. But I never used the cafeteria, which is kind of a bummer because I wanted to know what cafeteria food was like. But the reason I didn't go is because I went to use the kiosk and I couldn't read anything. And then when I changed it to English, it was still confusing, and then it was really loud, and then really loudly telling me my card didn't work even though I had money, and it was just very humbling, so I left. And then they have essential daily living expenses under $500, and that's just like toiletries, just essential things that you would need pretty much every day. Lastly, it just has cost of participation, so this is just like everything I just mentioned, all the numbers. You may not even use all that money. A lot of this is an estimate, and even spending money and personal travel is like included in this. So your plane ticket might not be exactly $3,000. The amount you spend on food may not be that much. And for reference, the food in Korea is very, very cheap. Like it's very cheap to eat out. So worrying about having something to eat was never a problem for me. And you honestly don't need like that much. For reference, I'd say if you are within the program for the time I was, I'd say like 2 to 3 bands would honestly like you'd be fine. So I'll kind of put the breakdowns here somewhere, and that's kind of what the cost was looking like for me. And again, everything's an estimate, everyone's very different, but honestly I had enough money to splurge and go shopping, to eat, to take care of myself, to get essentials, all of that. You definitely want a few thousand saved up if you're gonna do a program like that. Now I have kind of a list of questions people have asked me about it, and asked me about the trip, which are also on my phone because I'm not gonna remember all of those. The first question is, what do I wish I knew before going to Korea? Korean. Now, don't get me wrong, I did do my best to study and learn as much as I could, but I had maybe 3 weeks when I knew I got into the program to prepare for everything. So it was just a very hard turnaround to learn a lot. I'd say like the biggest things I focused on was reading, which was very, very easy. I learned pretty quick. And then just like basic speaking, so saying hello, saying thank you, saying like can I please have something, and just like very, very surface level dummy baby Korean. So that is definitely something that I wish I knew more of, but I also gave myself grace because I've been wanting to learn, and I think the best position to be in when you're learning something is like to actually be in that environment. So I definitely learned a lot more Korean like coming back. Like I know a lot more than I did when I left. Something else I wish I knew was low-key the weather. Now, people told me it was very similar to where I am now, so I expected it to be pretty cold. But yeah, it was cold. And as a Minnesotan, I'm kind of used to that, but it was still pretty chilly, and I wanted to wear really cute clothes. Another thing I'd say is to not overpack, guys, please. Like, I came back with another suitcase and I left with 3. I wish that I left more space and I didn't bring as many of my clothes, because I left with so many more clothes. So I wish I just left extra space in my luggage and in my suitcases, because that would have saved me a headache and I could have brought more stuff back. But honestly, I brought a lot of things back, so I'm not mad at it or upset with it or anything like that. So honestly, I feel pretty dang good. I'd say another thing that I kind of wish I knew more of were like societal rules. And that sounds a little strange, but when you're going somewhere, it's very important that you research their culture, obviously. And I did a lot of research before I left. I'm very like involved in like Korean entertainment and stuff like that, so I'm like, I've heard a lot about how that goes, but I think there are just like little things that you want to pay attention to, like how you know what side of the escalator you're on, or rules on the subway and things like that. Again, a lot of it I knew, but there's just little things that as an American you don't always know. So yeah. So someone asked me what the weirdest thing was that happened while we were there, and I definitely have 2 situations. The first one would be when we rented hanboks and went to go take pictures at the palace. And while we were there, I was staying off to the side. My 2 friends were taking photos, and there's like a sidewalk, and there's this old man who's like walking. He's looking at us and he's just like smiling, like he's just so happy, cheesing. And I'm assuming that he's like kind of excited to see foreigners partaking in his culture and whatnot. And they kept walking past, and all of a sudden I hear like camera clicks behind me, like shutter clicks, and I was like, and we look back and this man is like stopped, and he's just like just taking pictures of us, and we're just like, oh. So then we start like walking away, and we can still hear the shutter clicking behind us, and it was just like, it was endearing, but at the same time we're like, why are you taking photos? So that's definitely one of them. And the other one would be not being allowed into one of the clubs. I've heard about this before, about like non-foreigner friendly clubs, but we went to Itaewon, and every other club was fine. I want to preface it with that, like every other club was completely fine, but there was one club that we tried to go to, and the guy looks at my friend's passport, looks at her, looks at the passport, and he's like, are you American? And they're like, yeah. And he's like, no, sorry. And we're just like, but then I hear American rap in the building. Okay. So we didn't get let in one of the clubs, and that's one of those things I heard of like on social media, but it was so crazy to like actually experience that. Yeah, but they're just like, no foreigners. So people asked me about my most unforgettable moments on the trip, and I have a lot. Like, the whole thing was unforgettable, but to break it down, I'd say one of them is when we rented the hanboks, like I talked about. The palace was huge, and I just felt so pretty. Like, I wore a green hanbok, which I'll insert here, and I just had like hair clips. And the thing that I loved the most is that the vendor that we went to was so welcoming and warm, and even like when it came to styling hair, they were so intrigued by my braids, and they just like were so curious, but they also, you know, still worked with it. They were very sweet. They like were telling us to come inside, and overall they just had really, really good energy, and I'd recommend anybody to them. So that was an amazing experience. I loved taking the photos. I thought it looked like they looked great, and it was just like a 10 out of 10. Another one would be the shopping. In fact, shopping's number 1. Wow. Literally, my style is all there. Between Hongdae and Seongsu, it was just insane. I can't even describe it, but the amount of shopping that's available there is crazy, and the prices are even crazier. Everything's really cheap, and it's not like too far off of American like prices, but it's like better for what you're getting. The shopping was definitely one of my favorite parts. And if you head over to my Instagram, I actually made a reel doing a little haul of all of the clothing that I got while I was there. But even aside from clothing, I got so much skincare, I got so many snacks, I got so many little trinkets and jewelry. These earrings are literally from Korea. Another one of them would be the 1 million dance classes. If anyone is familiar with the dance world, then you might know about 1 million. It was a crazy experience. I'm someone who has no dance background, and I started dancing maybe 2 years ago, which is like a K-pop cover group, so I don't even consider myself like a dancer, and I went to these workshops that were completely taught in Korean by like amazing choreographers, and I felt like so supported, and energy was so good. They were so fun. Like, there was never one I went to where I left feeling bad. And workshops can be a lot of pressure, but for some reason, like, I was just catching on, which thank goodness, and it was so cool. I got to dance with Harmu, I got to dance with 𝐒𝐿𝐃, and that was one of the biggest, most unforgettable like things I've ever done, especially when it comes to dance, because it's something that I'm not always 100% confident in, but in those moments I felt like super unstoppable. Another unforgettable thing would be the cafes. They had cafes everywhere all the time. You could not miss one. They had really, really good food, really good drinks, and there was just a cafe at every corner. Like, there was never a moment that you didn't have somewhere to study or you didn't have somewhere to go with friends. So that was definitely one of my favorite things. I loved cafe hopping. We even went to the cafe that was owned by Park Jimin's dad, which was really cool, and the food was really great, so I loved cafe hopping as well. I would say going to Busan. So after my study abroad journey was over, we actually took a day trip, or not a day trip, a couple days trip to Busan. And if you're not aware of where that is closer to the coast or to the ocean, and it is a lot quieter than like the high-speed Seoul area. And it was really, really cool to go there, just to see the ocean, see the sea, and kind of have more of a quiet experience, but also like go out and do a lot of fun things. Now on to a topic that a lot of people have asked me about: food. I wanted to talk about my favorite foods from the trip. So number one, 닭갈비. I've never had this before until I got there, and damn, it was good. So basically what it is it's this giant like dish, this round dish, and there's like an outer rim and then like an inner rim. And the outer one, you pour like a bunch of cheese in it and it melts, because this plate is like iron, like it's heated. And then inside there's like onions, meat of some kind, like this like sauce thing, and it basically heats up and like stir fries, and then you take the meat and you dip it in the cheese with rice. It was so good. Another one would be Korean barbecue, of course. The Korean barbecue was bomb. We went to, I think, 2 or 3 different places, and they were all a little different, but there was never one where I was like, oh, I'm not really feeling it. The Korean barbecue was really, really good, and it just felt cool to immerse myself in a food culture, but in its original place, if that makes sense. Because I've gotten K-barbecue here at home and like, you know, in the States, but it was really cool to have Korean barbecue in Korea with like a group of friends, the group of people that came with us and things like that. So I really enjoyed that. Another great one is bingsu. So I've never had bingsu before, but it's pretty much like shaved ice with like cream and then your fruit of choice on top with like a drizzle. Bingsu was really good. It was like one of those things where you're like, that K-barbecue was good, I need something sweet, and it's like, okay, let's go get bingsu. So I enjoyed that a lot, and I heard that there's a place not far from me that has it, so I definitely need to go back and get some. It was the perfect cold little treat, and I have some great memories over bingsu. So a lot of people asked about skincare and my routine, which I won't get into too much just because I kind of have stuff on my Instagram about my routine and skincare and things like that, but I can elaborate more on like the skincare culture and like everything that they had, because Korea is the beauty capital of the world. We went to a couple Olive Youngs, which if you don't know what Olive Young is, it's like the beauty store. They have makeup, they have skincare, like they got everything. And we actually went to the largest Olive Young in Korea, which was in Seongsu. It was super cool. They had like pop-ups everywhere, and there was so much I couldn't keep up. But when it came to skincare, like if you're a skincare girl, you would absolutely melt and die in there, because there was so many options. I'm already running out of everything, but the products that I gravitated towards and that have been working for me ever since I got back from Korea are Anua, specifically their I think it's niacin serum, and then their peach serum, as well as their toners. Their 70% toners are also really good. And then I also use the Torrid eye cream as well as the Round Lab moisturizer. And moisturizers are always kind of funny for me because I have oily skin, so I don't like anything that'll make me any more greasy than I already am. But all of those products have worked so well and I love them, and honestly it's been great. I even got a ton of face masks, of course, so I was just able to load myself up and get as much skincare as I wanted. But I feel like I'm already running out and it's really sad, but it was endless. Like, it was endless how much you could get. So I want to elaborate a little bit more on the language barriers. I kind of already talked about it in the beginning of this video, but I want to talk about how I overcame that as well. Friends I went with, 2 of them were like decently like fluent at Korean, so I was able to learn a lot from them and kind of ask them, okay, like how do I ask for this? And I'd kind of push myself to go do that. But my entire program had like 1,000 students in it from study abroad, most of which spoke English. So even though it might be like a little isolating to be in a place that speaks a different language, like honestly all of the other friends and people that I had around me completely like made up for that, and it wasn't an issue. And I think it's also important to remember that you're a guest in these international spaces, and that me going and maybe not having a lot of time to learn as much as I wanted was just a risk that I was taking. And honestly, I don't regret it. I was really excited to learn how to say many new things all the time. Like, I almost wanted it and it fueled me more. So I don't regret it. I wasn't like super stressed over it. The only time I was when I had to take a taxi alone and he was trying to talk to me. But besides that, it was okay and it was no worries at all. One thing with foods that surprised me there was that everything is sweet. And when I tell you everything is sweet, I mean like everything is sweet. We got pizza one day and the sauce was sweet. I ate a pickle and it was sweet. Like everything I had like a touch of like real sugar to it, which is fine, but it started to get to a point where it was bothering me a little bit and I wanted something more tart or a little more spicy. But that's something that surprised me that I had to become accustomed to. I'd say another thing about the food is that everything was really cheap. Like I said before, eating out was so cheap. KFC, McDonald's, like anything was really cheap and was open late, which was really, really nice as well. It is a big thing in Korean culture to eat as a group and eat together and to kind of have everything potluck style and shareable. So a lot of the things that we ate were pretty large, which worked in our favor because then we just get to like split the bill or split everything and everyone's still very full and satisfied. So it really wasn't an issue or a problem at all, which was really, really nice. Also, the chicken was real. The meat there was real. I didn't realize until I got there. Well, okay, I knew that American food was like fake, but wow, it's fake. The last thing I want to talk about in this would be how this has changed my perspective and shifted my worldview. And to that, I want to say that this experience really opened my mind up to what else the world has to offer. And I think that living in the US, they really put you in like a box of the US is the best, like that's it, you don't need to worry about anything else. And I don't think that's true. I think that many other countries have many things to offer, and I want to go back immediately. Like, I want to go back. It was so much fun. Taking classes, studying abroad. I met so many people from Hong Kong, Hungary, Australia, Singapore. Wow, there's a lot of Singaporeans. And I learned so much. And if anything, it kind of reminded me that our education system is not that. It's not all that. You know, there's a lot of very smart people all around the world, and it sounds like common sense, but when you live in a country that is so self-centered, you don't seem to think about everyone else all the time. And I think it was a very beautiful experience to understand different people and understand different cultures and things like that. I think it's very important, and it was a very good lesson and important experience for me. I kind of want to just wrap this all up and just say, you know, if you ever have an opportunity to do something like this, please do it. And I know there's a lot of barriers, cost being one of them, but my university did offer scholarships and student aid and ways to help fund this experience as well. So please look into if your university does provide that, because that can be a very, very big help. I, again, just want to thank my uni for allowing me to have this experience. And I have so much footage from when I was there, so if it was not included in this video, I will definitely make kind of a part 2 montage type of thing for my next video. I like to look at my travels and think about it from the perspective of someone who looks like me. And a lot of people asked about how my experience was being in a very homogenous country, and I will say, like, it's really not as bad as you might think. I think I was very anxious about that before I left, and once I got there, of course there were like stares or looks or whatever, but it's nothing compared to America. Nothing. And it might also be because I was in like Seoul and like populated areas that like tourists are seen and things like that, but it wasn't bad. I think people were really open to us, especially like knowing a little bit Korean. I think it just was like really exciting. People were so friendly and really nice, and like there was way more great experiences than bad ones. So it's definitely somewhere I'd be willing to go back to, and a place that I really enjoyed. So that is it that I have for today, and I'm glad that you all stuck around to watch this video, and I will make sure to put the rest of the footage and the rest of my experience in another video for you guys. If you have any more questions, please feel free to leave it in the comments or to ask me over on my Instagram. I would be so excited to answer them for you, and maybe even make a part 2 if there's more that you guys want to know. So I will see you guys in the next video, and thank you for watching.